Okay. Now I have to watch what I say. Okay, so any other questions about the differences in the workshop? When to use one over the other? Any questions on anything like that? All right. I'm going to assume that no news is good news. All right, so I'm going to jump in, and throughout the workshop, I will be telling you sort of some activities that I do in the workshop or that I've seen other trainers do really effectively. And I'll also stop to ask you guys to participate a little bit. So I know sometimes it takes a little while for you to answer, but it is really helpful when I have some participation. So please help me out here. What we're going to do is we're going to jump right into this. I'm not going to go through the text to sign in. You guys are familiar with that. So we're going to jump right in. I'm going to assume that you are all, let's say, multi-sport youth. It's a youth organization, a big league, and there's going to be, I don't know, let's say about 50 parents in the room, and you're all going to be representing multiple sports, multiple ages from kindergarten through 15. So without further ado, I will jump right in. So thank you for coming to this workshop tonight, parents. I know that you're all very busy and you have a lot on your plate. And one of the things that I'd like to start off by saying is the reason that I got involved in PCA is because of a parent workshop that I went to. I was a Division I athlete. I was a college level coach. I was a high school level coach. And when I started coaching my kids at age 6, the first time I was exposed to PCA was through a parent workshop. And being an experienced athlete that I was, and a pretty high level athlete, I thought I knew exactly how to parent my kids in sports. And what I learned in only 30 minutes of this workshop was how many things I was actually doing wrong. And that a lot of the things I was doing to encourage my kids to really enjoy sports and love sports and be the best they could be were actually counterproductive. So now I've been a parent for about 18 years. I have 4 kids that I have been a sports parent for in soccer, lacrosse, swimming, field hockey, basketball, cheerleading, tennis, gymnastics, cross country, and even a competitive a cappella singing group. And let me tell you, every sport is different, but the rules are all the same for parents. We want our kids to love the sport, love what they're doing, and grow as a person. So what we're going to talk about today are the ways that you can support your kids for them to be the best they can, not only in sports, but you can see it says right on the screen, developing winners in life as well. My goal is for every single parent to be able to scream at your kids on the sidelines, scream for your kids, support your kids. What I'm going to be talking about today is what you should be screaming, what you should be yelling from the sidelines that'll get your kids fired up and excited, and maybe what we shouldn't be yelling that we do anyway because we're parents, that might actually do more damage than good. But we know you all love your kids, and we know you want all that's best for your kids. So I'm going to be sharing a little bit of the mistakes that I made. Hopefully, I'd love you to be open and honest about some of the mistakes you've made and maybe how you'd handle that differently the next time. So what we're going to start off with today is just a little bit about Positive Coaching Alliance. Who are we? We're a company that started in 1998 out of Stanford University. Our main focus was on coaches. And what we've learned, you can see the numbers here. We're growing by leaps and bounds. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary. But what we've learned was over the last 20 years, we couldn't just do workshops for coaches in order to make a change in youth sports culture. We had to also talk to parents. We had to also talk to the athletes themselves and the leaders in the organization. So today we're going to focus on you, the parents. And what I want you to think about first is what are your goals for your child in sports? So if you want to just pick the child that you are, this workshop is for obviously this athletic league. If you want to just pick that child, and I want you to think about what are your child's goals this season in the sport that they're playing. Or what are your goals? I'm sorry. What are your goals for your child? So if they have books, I would have them open up to the book on page 8. If they don't have the book, I would just explain that, okay, what we're going to do is a 100-point exercise. So you're going to take 100 points and you're going to divide them among all of these goals. I'm not going to check your math, but we're just going to see where your priorities are. So if it was a group that didn't have a book, I would probably just say, let's look at all these, and I want you to pick your top 3 priorities for your child in sports. What are the goals you have? So then I would read through the list: becoming a good athlete, learning to play the sport, learning teamwork, winning, gaining self-confidence, learning to deal with defeat, physical fitness, learning life lessons, having fun, making friendships, getting a scholarship, or if you have another one that's not up there. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. All right, so the parents do this, as I said, in the book. They use 100 points and divide them among topics. If they don't have a book, I'll just have them pick their top 3. All right, and then may I please have 3 parents just tell me, let's just do it this way since you guys don't have books. Tell me what your top 3 goals were for your child in sports. So I'm going to ask you guys, 3 brave souls on the call. What are your top 3 goals?
Physical fitness.
Keep going. What's the second and third?
Resilient. Have fun.
Have fun.
Make friends.
All right. Keep going.
Learn teamwork.
Yeah, there you go.
Scholarship.
Nice. Thank you for being honest. Everybody in the back of their mind is thinking, gosh, I don't want to say it out loud, but scholarships are so important. Let me tell you, I have an 18-year-old that's heading off to college next year. I know how important any financial aid you can get. But one of the things I'm going to bring to you tonight is a lot of research. And this is the research that sort of blew my mind when I sat at this workshop and I heard all of the stats and all the people that are a lot smarter than me that are studying child psychology, motivation, and there's even people that study scholarships. And one of the things that I heard for the first time that hit home with me was that the percentage of scholarship money given in athletics versus the percentage of scholarship money from major universities in academics and service, there's a huge difference. So let's take a guess. What percentage of money do you think colleges give out in athletic scholarships every year? Based on if they have 100% of the money they have to give, what percentage do you think they give out in athletic scholarships? Take a guess.
10%.
10%.
All right, I heard 10%. Anybody want to go higher or lower?
5%.
All right, the national average, and this is taking into consideration public and private colleges, is about 7%. 7% of all scholarship money is given for athletics. So if you do the math, that means 93% of the total scholarship money a university has is given for academics or service. So if a parent comes to me and says, hey, you know what, where should my child go to get a scholarship for lacrosse? My best advice is take him to the library because he's got a 93% chance of getting more scholarship money with academics than he does through athletics. Full rides are very few and far between these days, depending on the sport, depending on where your child goes. But putting all of your eggs in one basket for scholarship to get your kid to sports, a ticket to get your kid to college, the odds are not great. So what I would suggest is that you think about that in the back of your mind because some of us, that's our driving force. We want our kids to get a scholarship, so we want to push them as hard as we can. All right. So all of the other things that you said, interestingly, every time I do this workshop, nobody says winning. And to me, I want my kids to win. I want them to be successful. That's really important to me. And let me tell you, even if you didn't put it as your top 3, I guarantee that if I went to your child's sporting event in a couple weeks and I looked in the stand, that the parents would be screaming things at their kids that would probably tell me that winning is pretty important in their lives. But what I'd love to see you doing is this. I want you to think about what you say versus what you do. So I want you to take a look at the things that you put down as your child's goals, and I want you to think back to the last sporting event that you attended with your child. What did you say from the sidelines? If learning to play the sport and teamwork and life lessons and having fun were your top priorities, then on the sidelines, I want to hear it. I want to hear it from you. Wow, I love the way, good dodge. I love the way you took that shot. Way to beat the defender. Way to go, guys. I hope you had fun today. These are the conversations. This is what you say versus what you do. We want everything to be congruent to give the best message to your kids. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you a video from Kevin Eastman. And just off the record here, guys, to let you know, this is a video that I did show at a few parent workshops. And then now, instead of showing the video, I actually do this activity with the parents at the workshop. So you're going to hear Kevin Eastman explain what he did at a parent workshop once. But I actually get a volunteer parent to come out to the center of the floor, and I blindfold them, and I spin them around 3 times, and I do this exact activity. So I think it's a lot more fun than watching the video, but I'll let you see the video. So let me mute my phone and turn on the computer and see if this will work.
We can't hear the audio, Kelly.
Okay, I'm not sure how to do this without an echo. I turn my mute off on my phone. I mean the mute on my phone and the mute off. Sorry.
I think maybe you can I would just skip the audio for now, and people can log into the trainer share and view the videos in the trainer share for these workshops.
Sounds good. Sorry about that. Oh, okay. Let me turn that off.
Kelly,
Okay.
do you want me to give a 15-second paraphrase of what Kevin Eastman says?
No, that's okay. I mean, I'll
Okay.
just go through it. So
Yeah.
basically, what the video says is that Kevin Eastman, and I'll just explain to you the activity that I do because I stole it from Kevin Eastman. What I'll do is I'll ask for a parent volunteer to come up, and I will blindfold them. I'll stick them in the front of the room somewhere, and then I'll have them spin around 3 times, and I'll give them a beach ball or a fake ball, and I'll have someone else be the basket, and I'll put them on the other side of the room or however the room allows in the front of the room about 15, 20 feet away. And what I'll do is I'll have that parent spin around 3 times, and I'll ask one side of the room, you're going to be this player's team. So you're going to be on the red team with this player. And the other side are the opposing team. And so then what I do is I say on the count of 3, I want the team to yell directions to this player on how to get to the basket. And I will say go. And everybody at once, they get on their feet. The team that's, for the kid are screaming pretty positively, like, come on, go right, shoot, left, right, whatever it is. And the opposing team are yelling things like, no, stop, come on, good defense, let's go. And every time I've done it, I've probably done this about 10 times, the person that is blindfolded will give up on their own. They just stop. They get frustrated, or else they throw the basketball and it goes way off. And then I stop, everybody sits back down, and I take the blindfold off the player, and I say, or the parent, and I say, how did that feel? And honest to goodness, the one time I had a parent say, I will never yell directions at my kid again. And it was and I mean, I couldn't have paid him to say that statement any better. But it's really great to hear from the parent who was just blindfolded how difficult that was, to hear directions and to want to please everybody. And he also said that you don't know which people are yelling that are for you and which people are against you. So he heard people yelling from the other team, and he didn't know if they were yelling at him or not. So it's just a really powerful exercise to do, and that's sort of what Kevin Eastman explains to in the video. So that's, again, I'd rather do it than show a video, but that's that video right there. Okay. So, again, just to wrap it up, I want you to I want you to cheer. I want you to cheer from the sidelines, but think about what's coming out of your mouth. Is it actually in line with your goals and supporting your child? So, Joe Ehrmann, again, this is a great video. I'm not going to show it right now because of the audio. I don't know what my problem is with that, but I'll let you see Joe as it's going through. Joe talks about 3 important things that parents need to know, sports parents. And basically the bottom line is he says, know your child, know their likes, their dislikes, what fires them up. Number 2, know yourself. He goes into a little bit more detail about how you know what your baggage is as a parent. Some of us have a lot of baggage. Maybe we were fantastic athletes and we want the same for our children. Maybe we were terrible athletes and we see an opportunity for our kids to just go on and succeed. He also mentions that some of us think that our child's success in sports is the key to a great life. And so we have to bring this to the forefront so we're aware of this. The last one is know the value and the mission of the program. He says before you sign up your kid for any sports team, make sure that the coach is very clear on their purpose. And if the purpose of the coach and the philosophy of coaching and the philosophy of the league on playing time and on, bringing kids up to another level is not in line with what you believe as a parent, maybe that's not the right league for your child. So that's Joe. The wrap-up of that is know your kids, know yourself, and know the mission of the program. So what I want you to do now, parents, is look at the back of the book. There's actually an empty 100-point survey. And what I'm going to ask you to do when you go home tonight or maybe tomorrow morning is ask your kids to fill this out, because it's pretty eye-opening when we realize that our goals that we have for our child might not be right in line with what our kids' goals are. And when I took this home and I did this activity with my children, I was kind of blown away because my kids actually said that winning was pretty high on their list. And I realized that that was pretty much because of me, because my husband and I were both, high-level athletes, and winning was important. And we were passing that value down to our kids. So it was just pretty eye-opening for me. But they all had fun on the list, which I thought was great. That was their number one reason. Why do you play sports, kids? And they said, to have fun and be with my friends. And that goes all the way up through high school. Most of them will say that having fun is why they do it. All right. One of the ways that we can spread this message and change the sports culture, we can't do it alone, as I said. We can't just do it with coaches. So we have what we call the development zone. And the development zone is the zone where the kids are right now. They're in development. Unless your kids are getting paid a 6-digit salary to go out and play their sport, then they're in the development zone. They're learning, and they're making mistakes, and our job is to support them. So when we start focusing, our mission in Positive Coaching Alliance is to develop better athletes, but more importantly, better people. And I think if we keep the better people part in mind as parents, that there's a lot of decisions that we have to make that are going to be pretty clear on what the right thing to respond to your kid would be. So we teach the double goal coaches. They have 2 goals. The coach's goal is to win, but more importantly, the coach's main goal is to teach life lessons and build character. You as parents, your goal is a second goal parent. So which goal do we not have down for you to worry about? Everybody?
Winning.
Winning, right. We leave the winning to the athlete and the coaches. Please leave the winning to them. They're the ones that are getting paid the big bucks, probably zero in the league that you're in, to coach your kids. They're giving a lot of their time and energy. And again, they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it because they want to make your kids better. So parents, your job is to help your kids absorb these life lessons. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how to do that. At the elementary and high school level, we also like to talk to the athletes. We call our athletes triple impact competitors because we know that the best athletes in the world are ones that focus on not only themselves and making themselves better, but also making their teammates better and making the game better as a whole. So we call those triple impact competitor athletes. And then, again, the leaders of the organization, your organization, are the ones that brought us here today. And they have a single goal. Their goal is to create and defend this culture. And for the leaders, their job, they brought us in, they've got us on board. Their job is to keep everybody on the same page because that's the only way that an organizational culture can improve. All right, any questions on this? This is our development zone model. All righty. So the cool thing is, it's not just Kelly Kraft here telling you how to be a great parent. We've got tons. This is just a small sampling of our National Advisory Board. And you'll see some athletes up here and coaches that you might recognize. And I'm not going to ask you to call them out because their names are right there. But what I am going to ask you to do is I want to ask you to think of an adjective or a word to describe that person. Okay? So on the count of 3, I want you to just call out as many as you can. Give me some words to describe it. If you want to tell me who you're talking about, that's fine. I'm a little bitter with Brad Stevens at the moment because I was really hoping that Philadelphia was going to have a double victory with the NBA and Super Bowl, but I'll let Brad go. So give me some words to describe these people.
Hall of
Champions.
Fame.
Yes, Hall of Fame. Say it to somebody else.
Influential.
Good. Give me another one.
Winners.
Successful.
Good.
Competitive.
I like it. Thank you. So, of course, I'm going to hear 10 more that are all very strong words. These are the athletes and coaches that support the positive coaching model. They're behind us 100%. We pick their brains to find out what they're doing. We're emulating how they're coaching their players, and we're talking to them about what their parents did for them when they were young athletes. We also talk to them about what you do for your kids because a lot of them are parents now as well. So this is really cool because when I first heard of positive coaching, I was thinking that, okay, it was all about rainbows and unicorns and participation ribbons and giving kids trophies just for showing up. And when I noticed that a lot of these National Advisory Board members behind us, who they were and how successful they were in their jobs, it made me perk up a little bit. Because if you remember, the first goal of a double goal coach was what? What was the first goal of a double goal coach? Winning.
Strive to win.
Exactly. Striving to win. Okay, we are in the business of striving to win. And most of the principles, most of the things we're going to talk about today will help your child perform better. And that's what we want. We want your kids to perform.
Did we lose Kelly?
Sounds like we might.
Snowstorm.
If I can text her. Was she using, do you guys know, was she using the computer audio or phone audio? I think she was using phone, wasn't she? Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I just hung up on y'all. So here are the principles. As I said, what you hit it right on the head. The positive coach Goals, striving to win and teaching life lessons. The 3 principles that we use to do that throughout all of our workshops, number 1 is honoring the game. Number 2 is redefining what winning actually means, and we use that through creating a mastery climate called the Elm Tree of Mastery. And the third one we use is filling the emotional tanks, and this is where we really focus on making those around us better and making our teammates better. So what we're going to talk about first is your child. Okay, I want you to think about this in terms of your individual child, where Joe Ehrmann said, know your child, know where they are in development. So this is what we're talking about, overall talent development. And talent is a word that I would love to have quotes around, because I think we throw that word around very often. I know I did. When my daughters were young, I remember saying, oh, wow, she's so talented. She's such a talented swimmer at age 4. She's, man, she's really fast. And we have to be really careful. We're going to talk a little bit later about some of Carol Dweck's research about why that's a problem. But right now I want you to think about your child in terms of where they were when they started the sport. This is the romantic stage. This is where your child sleeps with the baseball glove in his hand. I have a daughter that every day comes home after school and she grabs her lacrosse stick and she goes out back and she's cradling around and she's taking shots. I cannot get my daughter to do anything else after school but pick up her stick. This is like her venting time. This is what she loves to do. And I never have to ask her to do it. Now, getting her to practice the piano is a completely different story. But when it comes to lacrosse, this is what she wants to do. She's enjoying it. Maybe your son's always out in the driveway just shooting baskets constantly. This is what he's doing. That's the romantic stage. They're having a blast. You don't have to beg them, and you can't get the soccer ball out of their hands. So this is where we want most kids to be, and we'd like to keep this stage going as long as possible. Sometimes, unfortunately, we switch to this technical stage. The technical stage of sports is where all of a sudden now it gets a little bit more competitive, and the focus is on doing it right. And unfortunately, this is a really crucial stage in youth sports. And I know in the last 20 years, this technical stage has gotten younger and younger and younger. I know back in the late 80s, early 90s, when I was in high school and college, that was when the technical stage started. We were just having a blast up until we got to be like juniors in high school. And then we finally got to varsity and went, whoa, okay, now it's getting serious. Now I see club teams starting with second graders, and they're on travel teams, and they're doing these skills and drills and burning it into the ground. So we have to be careful, parents, that we're not pushing our kids into this stage too soon. And if your child does excel and you want them and they want to be part of this technical stage of getting into a little bit more competitive, make sure that the coach that's coaching your child is doing it for the right reasons and supporting your child in a positive way. The third stage is the mature stage. And unfortunately, because so many kids get burned out or the pressure is too much for them in the technical stage, they never make it to the mature stage. This is the high level. The mature stage of sports is where they are getting paid to play. This is the professional level. This is the entertainment industry of sports. And sometimes, unfortunately, parents who take the lessons from these professional athletes and high-level collegiate athletes, and we have that trickle down to our kids. So this is I know this is an explanation slide on the stages of development, but I took this as a warning sign that what stage are my kids at and how can I keep them at that this is fun romantic stage longer. So I want you to be careful. Again, talent is not obvious early. I want you to remember that most kids under the age of 10 are not going to show natural talent. If the child's older, bigger, stronger, they're going to be the best athlete. That's just a given. But unfortunately, once they hit middle school and puberty, some kids will grow a lot faster, some kids won't. I'm sure a lot of you can think of a child that you knew when they were young, maybe you knew them in elementary school, and then all of a sudden you see them years later, and all of a sudden they're 6'2", and they're strong and they're tall, and maybe they were a little peanut when they were in elementary school, and the coach didn't give them the value that they should have had, and they could have been an incredible athlete if somebody believed in them when they were younger. So supporting your kids at all stages is super important to their growth. The reason that 70% of the kids are dropping out of sports by the age of 13 is because it's not fun anymore. And one of the things, just to let you guys know, I changed this slide a little bit, so it says 70% of the kids stop playing sports by the age of 13, and I have the parents guess why. And then I have the pop-up that says it's not fun anymore, so they can guess. One of the things also, parents, I want you to remember is when we're talking about fun, we're not necessarily always talking about parties and popsicle fun. We're talking about fun in terms of getting a kid to push themselves and learn a new skill or try something they've never done before and see success. We want to look at the process along the way and reward that success based on how hard they're trying and how coachable are they. Are they listening to their coaches? That is going to be fun for them. Parents, we've got to get the idea out of our head that we've got to equate winning with the ultimate winning, the ultimate fun. Because sometimes, I know I've been in games before where we've won and it wasn't a lot of fun. And I've been in other games where we might have lost by 1 or 2 goals, and it was the best game we've ever played. So I think as a parent, I learned very quickly over the last 18 years to change that mindset of mine that winning equals fun. So when my kids come home from a game, my first question isn't, did you win? My first question is, how did you play? Did you have fun? What did you do that was fun today? What did you do that was different today? And they're used to that now. And then they'll come in and they'll tell me, yes, Mom, I had fun. It was a great game. I took a left-handed shot. It was awesome. I had my best time in my 50 butterfly, whatever it was. And yes, we won. But they say that last. All right. So let's take a look. Here's what I want you to do, parents. I want you to think about your own child again. Plug it into whatever sport your child plays. Here's the scenario. Your child makes a glaring mistake at the end of the game that leads to an opponent's score. Okay? So whatever that is, translate that to your sport. The game is now over, and it's time to go home. What do you do? So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and parents, I'm going to ask you to turn to someone in front of or behind you, because usually you sit next to your spouse. I don't want you to talk about your spouse. Talk about this with your spouse. So turn to someone in front of behind you. First of all, shake their hand, introduce yourself, tell them who your child is, and then I want you to talk for 2 minutes about how you handle this with your child. Okay, go. So everybody talks for about 2 minutes, decides on how they would handle this. All right, and while they're talking, I bring 2 chairs up in the front of the room or on the stage or whatever is easiest. And I would ask for everybody would sit back down, and I would ask for a volunteer that would like to play the role of the child. And then and usually parents are actually pretty good about volunteering. And then I would ask another person to volunteer to play the role of the parent. And so the parent would sit down in the driver's seat. The athlete / parent is going to sit down in the passenger seat. And we're going to start this scenario. And I would say, okay, we're going to do a little bit of acting here, a little bit of role play. And I'll ask the parent just to tell me, what sport are we talking about? And they might say soccer or baseball or whatever. Okay, great. Soccer, the game is over. It's time to go home. Your son or daughter made the game-losing goal or the game-losing mistake in this game. So we're going to pretend that the parent's in the car already. Kid's going to come in and get in the car and have a seat. Okay? And I'm going to say action. When I say action, you're going to be the kid that's really disappointed. You're going to be the parent. I want to hear about the first thing you say to your kid when they get in the car on the way home. So, action. Can I have one of you volunteer to be the child? Trey, I'm going to let you be the child because I know you're on this call. And Courtney, I'm going to let you be the parent because you're on this call. Can I get a hello from Trey and Courtney?
Hello, yes.
Hi, I'm here.
Thanks. All right, Trey. 30 seconds. You're the kid. Courtney's the parent. Action.
Man, I really messed up that cake.
Mom, are you there? Court, are you there?
Mom, are you not listening? Gosh.
Mom's not listening to you. Maybe this is her theory on how to build you up. She'll just ignore you the whole ride home.
Kelly, can I help out and step in
yes,
for
please.
Courtney?
Ruben,
am I being? I'm not sure I caught on. Am I a parent that kind of gets it or that doesn't get it?
Well, you've just discussed it with a partner on how you would handle it. So I'm hoping that in that discussion you came up with a great way to handle this. So Trey just came in and said, I messed up. Go ahead, Ruben. Dad.
Okay. Well, hey Trey, but you had the courage to take the shot. Proud of you for that.
What does that really mean, though?
Well,
sure, but I still messed
up. Trey, this isn't the first time where things aren't going to go your way. Your mother and father have failed many times, and had to deal with disappointment, and you will too in the rest of your life. And this is good practice for that, and that's why it's so important that you give great effort and you're courageous enough to take shots like that.
All right, cut. Thank you. Round of applause. 2 claps for my volunteers. All right, now parents, I know this is a tough situation. You might have been there. What were some things that Dad Ruben said that you really liked?
That he had the courage to take the shot, that he was proud of him.
Yeah, he basically said to the kid, that was great, but you took the courage. He used the word courage. I thought that was awesome. What's something else that he said that you liked?
That
Mom
it's
and
going to
Dad,
happen
they-
again.
Say it again. One person. I don't know who's talking.
The mistakes are going to happen.
Yeah, bad things are going to happen. That's how life works. But you got to bounce back. All right, so a couple volunteers would share what they liked that Ruben said. Nice job. All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for volunteering. So I'm going to give you some sport parenting advice. As I said, my husband was a Division I swimmer. I was a Division I lacrosse and field hockey player. I also ran track one year. So when your child is playing the sports that you coached or you played really well, it really takes every amount of self-control to have to bite my tongue. Number one, when at practice I'm realizing that they might not be teaching them the same skills that I would be teaching them. And number two, in a game when the coach is missing things that they should be telling them to do better. And it takes a lot of self-control to not be yelling out to your child when they're cutting in the wrong spot or they're not in the right position. You want to tell them where to go. Imagine if your father was Doc Rivers. So this video is Doc Rivers giving advice as a parent. So I'm not going to play that, but one of the best tidbits of information that Doc gives in this one is if my kid messes up, but one of the last things Doc says is when my kid messes up and comes in and says, oh, man, Dad, I can't believe I blew that, Doc says to his son, boy, I wish you get that chance again. I hope tomorrow or I hope in the next game you get that chance again. And that was one piece of advice that I got out of this video, and I use it a lot with my own kids. When they come home and say, oh, I can't believe that person beat me, or I can't believe I got touched out at the wall, or I just can't even believe that I lost that match, the first thing off of my lips now is, wow, I hope you get a chance again to go up against that opponent. Or I can't wait till they meet tomorrow to watch what you've learned from that. So that's the gift that Doc has given me. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so I want you to think about this situation we just had. We asked Bruce Brown and Robert Miller, Proactive Coaching, had asked hundreds of college athletes to think back. What was your worst memory from youth and high school sports? Your worst memory. I want you to turn to the person next to you and tell them what you think it is. Go. Boom. They all guess in about 10 seconds. All right, here it is, parents. Their overwhelming response was the ride home from the game with my parents. So we just did this scenario, this little role play. Hopefully you got something out of it. Remember, you've got probably about 10 seconds to come up with a great way to support your child. The life lessons are more important than any post-game analysis you can give them about their performance. They don't want to hear it from you. If they're upset, they already are beating themselves up enough. What they need from you is to allow them to know that it's okay that they make mistakes. You're proud of them, and you can't wait for them to get out and get an opportunity to play harder the next time. All right. So how do we do this? We want to empower our kids. We want your kids to come to you. There's nothing worse than when a kid comes home and they're upset, and you just as a parent want to just talk to them and pour into them, and you say, gosh, let's talk. And they say no. Or you say, how are you doing? And they say, fine. Okay, that happens in my house a lot. I don't know if it happens in yours. I want my kids to want to talk to me about things. So how do we do that? Well, the first key is to establish a conversation among equals. Make sure that, my grandmother always said that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Make sure you're listening twice as much as you're talking. And I've found that asking questions is the best way to get your kids to listen to you, especially when they're disappointed after a game, or even when they're excited after a game. Another tip for me is that you don't have to go to every game. I know that's a huge shocker to most parents. How in the world could my child go out there and play soccer without my eyeballs on him at all times? But you know what? A lot of kids have said that they play better when their parents aren't there. And the second thing is, whether your kids play great or not, when they can come home and tell you about the game that you were not at, they can tell you about it through their eyes. So every once in a while, it's okay to miss a game. And it actually gives you a little bit of free time, and you are still a fantastic parent. Trust me. All right, again, adopt a tell me more attitude rather than asking all the questions. Challenge them. If they tell you, oh, the game stunk, really, tell me more. Why? Tell me about that. Just keep it in your head. Ask, don't tell. It's really, really helpful. And again, avoid the dreaded PVA, the post-game analysis. Again, I know you guys probably know the sport better than your children, but let the coach coach. Your goal is second goal. Your job as a parent is to support the coach and support your child. So they don't need to know every detail of what they should have done differently. And you also have to remember sometimes that you finished your sports career. Maybe some of you didn't, but you're in a different part in your sports career than they are. So if you went to the high school or collegiate or club level of playing soccer and you're trying to teach your 6-year-old how to play, probably way higher level than they need right now. So keep that in mind. And then, again, resisting the urge to fix it. There's probably not much that you could say that could make that big of a difference in your child's performance just with your work. Leave it to the coach. The coach is the one with your child every day, helping them get through and helping them build their skills.
Super badass.
Somebody have a question?
So that was my,
Oh, somebody's not on mute. You guys wouldn't mind muting so we don't hear your whole conversation? You might not want us to hear your whole conversation. All right, so real quickly, we talked about the growth mindset. If you have a book, you can open it up to page 17. This is Dr. Carol Dweck. She is a genius in terms of sports psychology research. She has a book called Mindset that I had to read as a teacher when I was a third-grade teacher many years ago, and it actually changed my whole view of how I thought about talent. I talked earlier about the talent trap. This is something that's huge. She has this theory, this research that she's done on how people have a growth mindset and they also have a fixed mindset. And some people can have a little bit of both. The fixed mindset people think that talent is because of what you've been given. You're either tall, you're fast, you're strong, you're smart, you're skinny, and that is just fixed. There's not much you can do to change it. Versus the growth mindset people who have a mindset that I will be able to improve and get better with practice and coaching and strategy and learning from the mistakes that I've made. So one of the things that we as parents do sometimes is we kind of push our mindset onto our kids. So what you have to think about is where are you in terms of your child's talent level? I remember when my first daughter Quinn was younger and she came home from preschool. It was in the late 90s when everything was positive and every single thing my child did, I said, oh, my gosh, Quinn, you are so fast. You are the best artist. Oh, my gosh, you cleaned your plate. I can't believe how good of an eater you were. Everything I was telling her was how awesome that she was. And then what I found was as she got to elementary school and upper elementary school, she started to be faced with challenges. And she would come home and say, Mom, I didn't win the art contest today. And I was like, honey, that's okay. Like, don't worry about it. You can try again next year. And she would say, but you told me I'm the best artist ever. Or Mom, at recess today, I didn't hit a home run in kickball. Or Mom, I didn't win that. And what I realized was all these years of me pumping her up with all this positivity was teaching her that she didn't have a lot of control over it. So again, there's a reason that God gave me 4 kids, because by the time the 4th one came around, now she's completely growth mindset. And if Jane comes home and says, hey Mom, I didn't win the race, or I can't use my left hand in lacrosse, I always say, you can't use your left hand in lacrosse, and she says, yet, my big word. So that's how I'm fostering the growth mindset in my kids, with this idea that you can't do it yet. So hopefully you can learn quicker than I did. All right, so praising effort. This is great. Erin Chastain is the head coach of DePaul University Women's Soccer, and there's a great message here on growth mindset for all parents. So I think, guys, definitely go back and watch this video if you have not seen it. This is the video where basically Erin Chastain tells parents that your kid is not God's gift to soccer or God's gift to sports. And it's very cool because she's talking at it from a college coach's point of view and who she's looking at in terms of recruiting. So it's a great video to watch. I love this. All right. Let's keep going. Okay. So for fixed mindset versus growth mindset, I would also ask them, like, what did you learn from Coach Chastain? What's something that, hit home with you? But as parents, real quickly, this is as easy as it is. We cheer from the sidelines. Okay, what does your cheer sound like? Can I have a volunteer to read this quote for me? For a fixed, this would be somebody that's cheering for their kids with a fixed mindset. What would they say? Somebody read that quote for me.
Wow, that was a great play. You were really good.
Thanks, Ruben. And then can I have another volunteer to read? It's the same thing. You still want to tell your kid how excited you are that they've done well, but listen to this phraseology. Somebody read this one.
Wow, that was a great play. You've really been working hard, and it's paying off.
Great, thank you. So what's the difference? With the fixed mindset, who's getting the credit for the great play? The kids. They're just getting credit because of who they are. When you're actually trying to reinforce a growth mindset in your child, you're linking the great play to what?
Their effort, their strategies.
You got it. That's how they've been working. It's the hard work that's paying off. So, man, your hard work is really paying off. That practice you did this week, those extra shots you took after practice, whew, they paid off. I saw the way you were shooting out there today. Linking success to the process. That's how you're going to get your child to not give up. And when they face challenges, they're going to know the way to get through it is to push hard. All right, so parents, back to a scenario. We want to make this real. Here's the situation. Now, you're on board. You've got all this positivity. You are a second goal parent. You are totally excited about this, and you're having trouble with the coach. So you just finished watching your child's first game of the season. You've already see a problem with the coach. He's playing players in the wrong position. He's making bad strategic decisions. As a second goal parent, what do you do when you disagree with the coach? And if you see my face getting red, it's because I was in this situation 3 years ago. And I had a very, very difficult time with this, and I want to hear some advice. How would you help me out with this? What would you do? So now what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to get with the group so that there's at least 4 of you in a group. So this side of the room, I'm going to ask you to walk over to the other side of the room and match up with 2 people on the other side, 2 people and 2 people on the other side of the room that you don't know, blah, blah, blah. Or I might find some other creative way to match people up, but I want them in a group for this. And then what I would ask is each group, I'm going to ask for a spokesperson. I usually do that very democratically, and I say on the count of 3, point to the person in your group you want to be the spokesperson, and then I'll point to somebody. And then I'll get one spokesperson from each group to share how they would handle this if they were having trouble with the coach. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that right now because I know you will all have fantastic, wonderful answers. And here's what PCA believes. Okay, number 1, retain your second goal focus. You need to remind yourself that you are in the job of helping your kids, supporting them with the life lessons. So, for example, if your child's not getting enough playing time, and they come home and they say, Mom, I hate my coach. He's a jerk. He takes me out of the game. I don't get a lot of playing time. Number 1, think in the back of your mind, when your child joined the team, did they say that everybody would get equal playing time? That's number 1. And number 2, you have 2 choices here. You can decide, yep, I'm going to take my kid's side, and I'm going to agree with them. And if my kid comes and complains that he's not getting enough playing time, I can say, you know what, you're right, your coach is a jerk. I can't believe they would do that. You deserve to play more. Let's go call the coach. That's choice A. Or choice B, your kid's going to come home and say, yeah, Mom, I hate my coach. I don't get enough playing time. What would the second goal, supporting the life lessons response, be to your child about playing time? Who can tell me what you would tell your child with a life lesson focus?
Have you talked to your coach about it?
I like it. Have you talked to the coach about it? Well, no, I didn't talk to the coach about it. Continue. Then what would you say?
Do you want to find out if there's anything you can do to earn more playing time?
There you go. There you go. I like it. So bringing out the parents to really think about, have them practice this second goal focus, practice this, have a couple different answers given. Takeaways for this: respect the role of your child's coach, okay? Your child needs to listen to that coach. The only way they're going to listen is if they know that you respect the coach as well. Find out how they're feeling. Sometimes we take our feelings. If my child's not getting enough playing time and I'm watching my kids sit on the bench and I'm sitting there thinking, God, they deserve to play. Why aren't they playing? Why isn't the coach putting them in? And so as soon as your child comes out of the game, you want to say, oh, honey, I'm really sorry that you didn't play as much today. Well, you know what? Sometimes your kid's okay with it. Sometimes your child isn't as upset about it as you are. Maybe the coach has had a conversation with your child to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take you out for a little bit, and this is why. So just remember, find out where your child's at first. Don't push your feelings on your child. Never put your child in the middle, okay? We want to show respect for the coach. If you have a super, super serious issue, then you may talk to the coach outside of the relationship with your child. Maybe send them an email and say, could you give me a call? I have a question. But the number 1 thing we want your child to be able to do, remember, this is life lesson time, is advocate for themselves. I don't care if they're 6 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, or 21 years old. We want your child to speak to the coach first. My daughter has a brand new high school lacrosse coach, and the very first thing at the very first parent meeting that the coach said was, I don't want to speak to you during the season. I want to speak to your child. Do not call me. Do not email me. Do not send me texts. I want to hear everything through your child. If I feel that after your child comes to me with a concern or an issue, then I will contact you. And I had a lot of respect for that because my daughter's a freshman, and I thought, you know what, that's great because that's exactly what kids need to learn. They need to learn to speak up for themselves. Questions on that? Any other suggestions that you might have if you're having trouble with the coach? Remember, this is after everybody's already shared, so we've gotten a lot of suggestions. Okay, now, Best thing. How many of you have coached? Raise your hand. Parents, if any of you have coached. All right, a lot of you have. Excellent. How many of you, after the first week of the season, can say that you met every single parent of every single child that you're coaching personally? Wow, not one hand is up. Okay, this blew my mind. When I first started coaching, I was coaching my daughter's 6-year-old soccer team, and I bet 3 weeks went by, and I still had only had 2 or 3 parents actually come up to me and shake my hand and introduce themselves and say, hey, I'm Timmy's mom, or I'm Emma's mom, or I'm Grace's mom. I was really floored as to how many parents didn't come up and introduce themselves. So what I would actually encourage the parents to do, I actually would write an email to the team and I would say, hey, I would love to meet you. I'd love to say hello. I'd love to put a name with a face. I actually had to tell the parents to come up and meet me. So parents, the best thing you can do for these coaches is support them. So help your child, recognize the commitment. Let your kids know that this is a tough job. Contact the coach right away and say, hey, what can I do? How can I help you? Again, the second goal focus is letting the coach coach, filling the coach's emotional tank. After a hard game, guess what? The coach feels it too. So anything you can do to support the coach, that's really helpful. Never put your athlete in the middle. If you are furious and fuming, 24-hour rule is a great one. Do not send a text, an email, or anything, or even talk to your child about a confrontation that happened. Give yourself 24 hours to sleep on it and then decide. A lot of times you're going to decide it's not as big of a deal as it was then. And if something serious is happening, if there's a safety issue to your child or you find your child is really upset by this coach, or maybe the coach is not a double goal coach, you might need to intervene. And knowing that, you're the adults here. Knowing when that's necessary is on you. All right. Here's a great quote. Can I have a volunteer to read this quote for me?
75% of parents and coaches say that teaching sportsmanship is the responsibility of parents, with 80% of parents responding to their survey claiming to play an active role in their child's youth sports experience. The challenge isn't parental involvement. It's taking the time to instill the value of sportsmanship in their children.
Thank you very much. So with this high of a percentage, 75% of parents and coaches saying that it's their responsibility to teach sportsmanship, 80% of them saying that they do play an active role in their child's youth sports experience, don't you think it's really important that we as parents are all on the same page about what are the values we should be teaching our children? Because I know for sure that there's a lot of parents out there I see on the sidelines that I do not want them teaching their children the lessons that they think are valuable, that they think are important. So thank you all for being here, because I appreciate you taking the opportunity also to learn about what are the values and what are important. So part of this has to do with honoring the game. With our athletes and our coaches, the last principle we talk about is honoring the game. And honoring the game means looking at the game from a big picture. It's not just about the moment. It's not just about your child. It's about the big picture. And this has to do with respect. We talk to the athletes and the coaches about respect for 5 areas of honoring the game. Those 5 areas are the roots. It's the foundation. It's what holds your team in place. When adversity happens, if you have a strong respect in these 5 areas of the roots, your team will make it through. So those 5 areas are the rules, the opponents, the officials, your teammates, and themselves. So for parents, here's our job. We have to talk about the opponents respectfully. We have to cheer good plays for both teams and show respect for officials. And again, this is something that I have started doing probably in the last 5 years, and people look at you kind of crazy. When you're sitting on the home team stand, and somebody from the other team scores a goal, and I'll stand up and say, good shot, that was a great goal. And everybody looks at me and goes, that was the wrong team. And, it's actually countercultural to cheer for the other team when they've done something well. I actually cheer for officials now. If an official makes a good call, I will say, oh, good call, ref, way to go, thank you, good call. If the official doesn't make a good call, I keep my mouth shut, because I have no desire to be an official. It is the most difficult job out there, and I don't want to do it. So unless you want to sign up and be an official, please take my side. Keep your mouth shut. Officials probably have the toughest job out there, and we're losing them at alarming rates. The game can't go on without the official. They are the most valuable person on that field. So parents, you need to support them, especially if the official of most of the youth games like ours is getting on their bike and riding home after the game. It probably means they're not in the position to have you arguing with them. So what do we do from here? Okay, you guys have just gotten a lot of information. A lot of it hopefully sunk in. But to continue this, we have a lot of resources for you. So this book that you were given at the beginning of the workshop, this should be your Bible. Keep it with you. Keep it in your bag. Keep it in the bathroom. Keep it somewhere you can go back and refer to it often. On page 41 are the case studies, sort of the Dear Abby section on this is what's happening with my child. How do I handle it? It's also a great reminder. If you're not a book person, there's a great way. Signing into this workshop today has also given you access to something that we call weekly conversation starters. These are things that you can use with your child to help them develop into a triple impact competitor. It will give you ideas on how to empower conversations with your child and reinforce the life lessons, and it will help remind you that what we're trying to do is nurture a growth mindset in our kids. Super important. And then the last one, this is one of my favorites. We have a Development Zone website, which is ccadevzone.org, and this is a searchable database of information. This is so valuable. If any of you, I know a lot of you parents out there are coaches as well. I send out an email weekly to my team, and I'll go on the DevZone website and I'll pull out a video of something that I think would be really cool for the parents to hear, and I'll put the link right in my email. So every time an email goes out to my team, there's a link from the DevZone in there, and it's just a quick reminder from a professional coach or a professional athlete or a parent that's a coach or an athlete. I sent the Doc Rivers one out a few weeks ago. It just keeps everybody in the know about what's going on. You can search any topic that you want to. My child's not getting enough playing time. My child's really upset after the game. My kid wants to be first all the time. Any of these topics that you have, you can put it right in the search bar and hit search, and you will get articles and videos and lots of people that have support for the topics you're talking about. Last thing, this is where I'm going to bring out the feels. Okay, I want you to remember this constantly. My husband and I keep saying we would never do it, but we already are. We're talking about the good old days. We're talking about the way things were when we were growing up. And so what I want you to remember right now is your kids are living in their good old days right now. And you have a lot of power as a parent to make these the best days possible. I would love nothing more than to have my kids look back when they're, 30, 40, 50 years old and say, my youth sports experience was so awesome because my parents were my number one fans. That's what I would love. And unfortunately, from a lot of adults my age, I ask them how their youth sports experience was, and they say, man, my dad was awful. I was so excited when my mom didn't come to the game. As soon as I saw my dad on the sidelines, I cringed. I wanted to crawl up into a ball. And I'm hearing this from 40 and 50-year-olds. So parents, I want you to remember, these are your kids' good old days, and we want them to be the best they can be. So thank you very much. I appreciate you coming. There's an evaluation in the back of the book. We're always trying to get better with these workshops. So if you could fill that out, fill us in on what you liked about the workshop, how we can make it better. We're constantly improving. And I will be here after the workshop if you have any specific questions. So that's it. Workshop over.
Let me jump in on behalf of the group, Kelly, and thank you very much for taking us through this. I especially want to thank Kelly. We had a little curveball thrown at us, and Kelly, your composure, your poise, and your ability to come through it, just amazing. So thank you very much, Kelly. Hey, Rich, do we have time to see if the group has any questions about this workshop, about the high school parent workshop, 30-minute parent, and any questions do we have time for that, Rich?
I believe so.
Yep. Okay, well, let's open up the floor and see if anybody does have anything to ask about this workshop.
Kelly, this is Scott. I love the way you bounce back and forth with, hey, if they have the book or don't. Because one thing we're running into here in North Texas is, you've got an idea or a school district that's going to do half a dozen parent workshops and have a couple hundred parents in the gym. That's a lot of books. So you do these talks without them. So I really appreciated the spin on, hey, without a book, you did this. So thanks for including that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess this is a question from the trainers. I think there's a few on the phone. So you mentioned, Kelly, that you leave time at the end for questions for parents. Is that happening? Is there a lot of parents coming up at the end, and are they long involved questions? And are trainers kind of prepared to deflect any questions that maybe they don't have the answers to? I just kind of want to be aware.
Yeah, so other people, Ruben, you can answer this too, but I find that I get a lot of questions after the parent workshop, and they're very specific. Like, let me tell you what's happening with my son, or let me tell you what's happening with my daughter. So a lot of times, like the coach workshop questions are much more general, but the parent workshop questions are always like super specific. And I always laugh because it's usually something I've gone over in the workshop. And, but yeah, I mean, they do. Parents are, I mean, they are like mama and papa bears. You know, they're watching out for their little one. And if they hear something that seems a little off, something that I've said, they want to know right away, how do I handle this? What do I do? The other thing I get a lot of after the workshop is, oh my gosh, this was great. You need to talk to my son's team, or you need to talk to my other daughter's team, or you need to talk to my neighbor's team. Like, the parents really resonate with this workshop, and they want this spread everywhere for their other kids and their other teams. So I think one of the things that, and I always have right away is, you know, oh my gosh, I'd love to hear that. And I have a piece of paper out so they can write down the contact information for their next, you know, for their other child. It used to be on the back of the evaluations, which I don't think it is anymore now that the evaluations are in the book. So I think that is something that we as a training department, and you can even reinforce with your trainers locally, because parents want this message spread to all the sports organizations that all of their kids are in. And so I think having a place where the trainers can write down contact information, sometimes I'll just text it and I'll just, you know, shoot it to Brendan or whoever's there so that they know. But yeah, that's probably a more common question.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I'm not sure if the question was, does the trainer leave time within the workshop for questions and answers in a group setting? I think that's very much up to the trainer. I think that it probably happens a small percentage of the time. My experience has been at the end of a workshop, if I ask the group, are there questions, I tend not to get questions in the group. And it might be because people, you know, they're ready to go, you know, and they don't want to hold other people up. But like Kelly said, then when the workshop's over and I'm packing up my equipment, there's usually 2 or 3 people that come up, and like Kelly said, with sometimes very specific questions about a situation that they and their child are in. And that's where that's where I get I've experienced more questions is in that setting.
Hey, Kelly. Last week, I was doing a parent workshop, and someone asked me, how do you establish a conversation amongst equals with a kid that's like 5 or 6? So I'm just curious on how you would answer that question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, first of all, I would make sure that the parent realizes what the kid's actually asking. And I used to joke, actually, I didn't even bring this up in my workshop, but I joked that the one time I heard this somewhere that a kid came up to a parent and said, hey, you know, where did I come from? And the parent was like, oh, crap, and went into this whole explanation about where babies come from and, you know, all this stuff about, you know, men and women loving each other. And then, like, the parent got through this whole explanation, and the kid was like, no, I mean, like, my friend's from Florida. Where did I come from? You know? So, you know, I use that a lot of parent workshops because it's so true. Like, sometimes kids just want a simple answer, and the parents are ready to give them this post-game analysis or the whole details on what they should have done differently or better. And I think, you know, a conversation among equals starts with questions. And if it's a 5 or 6-year-old, I mean, I don't know what the question is, Marty, exactly, but I mean, just realize where their brains are and where their development is at the time, and that their goal is to just have fun. And they just want love and support from their parents. They want the popsicle at the end of the game, and they want to have fun. So even if the kid says, like, you know, why did I miss that goal? Parents don't have to get into a super philosophical explanation on why they missed the goal. I mean, a simple explanation like, you know what? We all miss goals sometimes. It's okay. Even the best of the best miss. You just got to go out there next time and try again. So, I mean, that's probably the response I would give.
Kelly, I can't emphasize what you said about questions enough. I mean, Marty, that's to me, it's a conversation among equals. It is parent with a 5-year-old, make sure that you're asking more questions than making statements. If you're asking questions, especially open-ended questions, it's very hard for you to dominate. You can direct the conversation, you can steer it, but it's hard for you to dominate a conversation when you're asking a lot of questions, especially open-ended questions. And when Kelly put us in the role play, one thing I realized that I didn't do as the parent in that role play is that I didn't ask the child a question. When Trey said, gosh, I really blew it today, you know, I could have followed up with a question. I could have said, well, what do you think you'll do next time you're in that situation? You know, but asking questions, I think, is very key, especially, Marty, with that, you know, 5-6-year-old athlete.
So one
Does that make
thing
sense,
too,
Marty, to you?
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
The one thing too, if I could just put in my plug for a second, I've had a lot of like partner managers ask me, like, gosh, how do you get the parent workshops? They're so hard to schedule. But when I do coach workshops, the very first complaint that all the coaches have is usually parents. Like, oh my gosh, the parents are ridiculous. So I would just encourage you guys to just try to think of really creative ways to do parent workshops. And the trainers are really flexible. You know, 2-hour parent workshops with 50 parents, that's awesome. But if you have to jump through 16 hoops and, like, literally, you know, promise them your firstborn child in order to get a 2-hour parent workshop to happen, you know, come up with a more creative way to do it. So, you know, 3 30-minute parent workshops. I remember saying to somebody in Minnesota, I think it was Andrew Pillsbury back then, but he's like, could we do 2 45-minute parent workshops? I'm like, yeah, please do it. I don't know if I'm going to get yelled at by products people, but I just think that it's the best way to get the message out to parents is just to have parents hear it. And if you can do it at, you know, if you say to the league that the parents all have to show up to give their deposit or to pick up their child's uniform, or it's a mandatory parent meeting where the kids, you know, the parents have to do their checks, they're not going to miss it. So do a 30-minute parent workshop on uniform handout day and check handout day. And I've been doing that for my lacrosse team that I've been coaching for 9 years. And I get over 120 parents in the room because they have to come and they don't want their child to miss out on the opportunity to play. So I also did it years ago at open house, like with a high school open house where the parents have to go from subject to subject throughout the whole night. And I stayed in the auditorium. So the announcements came on and they said, if any of you are parents of athletes, and maybe your child has a gym class or a study hall for that 10-minute subject period, come down to the auditorium. And Kelly's going to do a quick look. I did 6 15-minute parent workshops. But it's just to get this message out, I think, is more important than trying to create the perfect environment to do a perfect 2-hour workshop.
So, Kelly, it's interesting that you talked about that because I jotted down a couple notes as you did your demo on things I wanted to follow up on with the group. And one was how long is the ideal, you know, parent workshop. And, Rich, I don't know if what do you call it? The description of the various workshops confirms what I'm about to say. But I think a parent workshop should not be more than 90 minutes. I really don't. You know, so you know, to me, this workshop is a 90-minute workshop, and yeah, I think it's fine for it to be 75 minutes. I think it's fine to be 60 minutes. If you start to approach the 45-minute time frame, then it becomes what Kelly mentioned. Then it really becomes a parent talk, and we have a scaled down PowerPoint for that. And I think you all know that with the parent talks, they can do up to 3 30-minute parent talks within a 2-hour time frame. So, you know, we don't want the trainer to be committed to be in facilitation mode for more than 2 hours. And like Kelly said, there's been times where for whatever reason the partner thought that, you know, instead of 30 minutes, can we make it 2:45? And that's rarely a problem to do that. I mean, there's some trainers that occasionally might have a trainer that doesn't want to do that, but almost all the trainers, as long as they don't have to be there for more than 2 hours, they're fine with that. Any questions about that? Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, just to add to that, Ruben, what I was going to say, if I was going to be scheduled to do a 45-minute parent workshop, as Ruben said, it's more of a parent talk. That is a good option to use the 30-minute parent PowerPoint. because, it's
Yeah.
so easy to stretch a 30-minute PowerPoint out to 45 because then you can do more discussion. This one right here, the after the game scenario, you can really take some time to dig into those issues. Whereas the 30-minute parent talk, you really don't have a chance to do a lot of challenging and questioning about these things. So that's what's great about having a 30-minute parent talk PowerPoint already established. That can be used for 30 minutes. It can be used for 45 minutes, maybe even an hour. I might even use that one for an hour. Because I just think less is more sometimes because you can get into more of a discussion. So questions on that? Anybody have any questions on that or want our opinions on anything else about that?
Hey, Rich, is anything I said about the timing, especially that 90-minute time frame for a full parent workshop, not consistent with your understanding?
Nope, that's consistent.
Okay.
I think also the idea of incentivizing somehow. There was also a group I heard of that if the parents came to the parent workshop, they got $10 off their child's admission, not admission, but their child's fee.
Registration, yeah.
Registration fee, yeah, or $20 off or whatever it is. My team does a volunteer bond that the parents all have to volunteer at one tournament or one team or another. And if they came to the parent workshop, they didn't have to. That was part of their volunteer bond. So, there's things you can do to make it creative to incentivize parents to come. Because when they come, they all are thankful they came after they came. They don't want to get there, but once they're there, I probably, as I said, I get more handshakes and thank yous after parent workshops than probably most.
This is true. I'm not stretching it here. On the evaluation forms, one of the questions we asked is, what's a way to make the workshop better? And one of the top responses, it's a write-in response. You can get all kinds of different responses, but one of the top ones is get all the parents here. So
get more parents here. Yeah.
What Kelly said is true. The parents that experience the parent workshop, whether they're happy to be there or not, at the end, it's like, wow, we need all our parents to hear this. And I'm sharing that with UPMs and PSMs because I think it's an important piece in it's a nice arrow in your quiver for making the sale and convincing them that this workshop is a strong workshop and it's an impactful workshop.
Yeah, and I don't downplay the 30 minutes. This was so impactful for me in 2009 that I wanted to be a part of this company just from hearing a 30-minute parent talk. I walked out of there like, okay, mind blown, and I thought I knew it all. So even the 30-minute parent talk is really valuable. And the cool thing is you can do it anywhere. You can do it from a dugout, on the stands. You don't have to be in a classroom setting.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. I'm a big fan of the 30-minute parent talk from a convenient standpoint for the partner and the parents and from an impact standpoint. I don't think that a 90-minute workshop has 3 times as much impact as a 30-minute parent talk. I think a 30-minute parent talk can be very impactful as well.
I do have a caveat, though, to that one, Ruben, if I can add that in. I did have to do a 30-minute parent talk one time in one of those indoor sports bubbles in the corner while all the kids were trying out for the baseball team behind them. So if you're going to plan a 30-minute parent talk during a tryout, please make it in a different location because that was a mess and a half. So thank you. Public service announcement.
Other questions or comments from the group? Rich, do you want to wrap us up with anything? Oh, go ahead.
This is Brandon with Philly. Aside from the main goal of educating the parents, a lot of my partners are really struggling getting parent volunteers, coaches, and they'd like to somehow take the momentum of this type of workshop and encourage parents to volunteer or use it as a way to inspire them. Do we feel comfortable with our trainers using something directly to encourage the parents to volunteer to coach, or would we rather have someone from the organization make the direct link?
That's a good question. I think that's something. My opinion.
Go ahead,
I think
Kelly.
if the partner shared with the the trainer and the 3-day ahead of time phone call, that's an issue that they have. I think most of our trainers would feel comfortable putting in a plug for that. I think it depends on the partner, but I don't know many trainers that would say, oh, no, I don't feel comfortable doing that. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. As a trainer, if I was asked to make a pitch for that, I would try to make it pretty short and sweet. I would talk about what a gift the volunteer coaches in this organization are providing to all of our kids and our families and our community. And if you have the time to be a contributor in that way, boy, the league can use some more coaches, and it'll give more kids the opportunity to have this experience. And being a great youth sports coach is not about being the greatest expert in the sport. It's about two things. One is caring about kids. Two, having the time and the flexibility to do it. So if you don't feel like, well, wait a minute, I didn't even play soccer when I was a kid, don't let that hold you back.
Yeah, their role can be the culture keeper for the second goal, for the double goal coach.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. I feel like it would be something to communicate between the PM and the trainer, and I just wanted to make sure that was appropriate.
Yep.
Another thing there is in the parent workshop, if we treat our coaches more respectfully and if we show more appreciation to our coaches and not give them grief, then more of you will be willing to volunteer. So, we hope you will consider volunteering to be a coach, but if you can't, then we hope you'll be committed to making this the kind of environment where other parents, are willing and even want to be a coach. I'm gonna turn it over to Rich here as we reach the half-hour point to see, Rich, if there's anything you want to say to wrap up or close the demo.
I just want to thank you and the training team for your time and commitment to making this successful, and thank you to all the PMs and PSMs for participating. Ripper, wrap up.
Yep. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, everybody. We really like doing these demos. We really appreciate the opportunity to share the workshops with you all. So thank you as well. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
So much.
Bye-bye.